week at the Bee Museum. So today we're talking about another amazing animal, the desert tortoise. So first off, a lot of people wonder what the difference is between a turtle and a tortoise. And the short answer is that there isn't one. So that's because according to the American Society of Ichthyologists and Herpetologists, all tortoises are turtles. So all the reptile species with a bony shell fused to the rib cage, like our tortoise here, are in the same group. And that group is an order called Testudines, and most biologists agree that you can refer to every species in the group as turtles. So don't let anyone tell you that you're wrong if you call a desert tortoise a turtle. But from there we can get more specific. So tortoises belong to a unique family within the turtle order, and there are a few characteristics that set them apart from the rest. So most importantly, all tortoises are terrestrial, which means that they're adapted to living on land. Most other turtles spend some or all of their time in the water, but when you look at a tortoise, you can tell that they don't do any swimming. Their legs are thick and sturdy, and they're shaped a bit like a tree trunk, which is better for walking than the webbed or even flippered feet of many turtles. All tortoises also have taller, dome-shaped shells, while the other turtles usually have smoothed, flattened shells to make it easier to glide through the water. So, tortoises can be found on every continent except for Australia, but our desert tortoise here can only be found in the southwestern United States. So there are two different kinds of desert tortoise. The range of the Mojave desert tortoise is northwest of the Colorado River, where it likes to live in flat basins with lots of shrubs, and the Sonoran desert tortoise lives southeast of the Colorado River, where it prefers rocky slopes with shrubs or grass. When they decide where to live, the most important thing to both species is the soil, because desert tortoises are burrowers. They use these large claws to dig themselves a den, although they sometimes look for rock crevices or burrows from other animals to make their jobs easier. By staying underground, they're able to save energy, stay cool, and conserve the water in their bodies, and to keep safe from predators like mountain lions, which is pretty much the only thing that will go for something with a shell this tough. A desert tortoise might spend as much of 95% of its life underground. When a tortoise does leave the burrow, it's most likely looking for food. Desert tortoises eat the stems, leaves, and flowers of many plants. They can even eat plants that are poisonous to other animals because they have special bacteria living in their digestive system that can help them break it down without getting sick. They can get almost all the water that they need just by eating those plants, and they're able to store that water in their bladder for a long time without needing to drink, so they can reabsorb it later. As an adult, they can survive for almost a year without drinking any water. But when they can, they will drink water, and a lot of times they'll leave their burrow when it rains so that they can drink from those pools that are formed during storms. Desert tortoises also leave their dens to find a mate. So usually a desert tortoise prefers to live a solitary life, so if it runs into another tortoise of the same gender, it'll usually fight. Males are especially prone to fighting over territory and females, and they do this by using the thick scales that project from the front of their shell, which are called gular scutes or a gular horn. By getting the gular horn under the other tortoise, they're able to flip him over onto his back, leave him behind, and walk away with the female. If a tortoise gets stuck upside down, it can suffocate from the strain on its organs, or it can die from exposure to heat or cold. Luckily, they're pretty good at righting themselves again, thanks to the curve of their shell and their strong legs. When females lay eggs, they lay a clutch of 3 to 12 eggs near the front of their den. The eggs can take 3 to 4 months to hatch, and when the babies emerge, they're only about 2 to 3 inches long. Their shells are soft when they first hatch, which makes them much more vulnerable to predators who normally don't bother adult tortoises, like coyotes, foxes, bobcats, and ravens. Unfortunately, the desert tortoise faces many threats related to humans. Development of human areas has reduced their available habitat, introduced invasive species, and attracted more predators like ravens who like to live near humans, which makes it harder for baby tortoises to survive to adulthood. One of the biggest threats to the Mojave desert tortoise in particular is disease. Scientists think new diseases most likely entered the population when people released their pet turtles into the wild. This is one reason why it's very important to make sure you never release your pets into the wild. It's much better to find them a new home. It's also why you should never touch or pick up a wild desert tortoise. You might help the diseases to spread. You can also scare the tortoise into emptying its bladder, which, if you remember, is where it stores excess water. So if you're lucky enough to spot a desert tortoise, make sure to observe it from a distance. Luckily, a lot of work is being done to increase the populations of desert tortoises. Conservation groups like the Desert Tortoise Preserve Committee, the Arizona Interagency Desert Tortoise Team, and the Fish and Wildlife Service help designate habitat where they can be protected. They also perform research, such as by attaching tracking devices to some of the tortoises' shells, which can help us understand them better, so that we can find ways to protect them and prevent the spread of diseases through the populations. So that's all for this week. Be sure to send us your questions for next week. We'll be talking about the American bison. We'll see you soon.